Hello, everybody, and welcome into the Mountaineers Now postgame show. I'm Schuyler, Callihan. That is Christopher Hall. West Virginia falling into Fort Myers tip-off once again, 56-54 to the Virginia Cavaliers. And before we dive into our analysis on this one, let's take a look here at some of the numbers. West Virginia turnovers once again an issue tonight, 16 of them, but they also did not shoot the ball well. Not a huge surprise facing this very stingy Virginia defense. Held to 37% shooting from the field, 33% from three. They did out-rebound Virginia, but when they needed the two rebounds that they needed the most, they did not come up with them there at the end. Jesse Edwards and Quinn Slazinski pretty much the offense for the Mountaineers in this one, each going for 17 points on the day. Seth Wilson buried a trio of threes, and outside of that, it was pretty much silent across the board for West Virginia. Reese Beekman goes for 12 points, 5 assists, and 4 rebounds. Chris, it felt like, again, this is almost going to sound like we're kind of stuck on repeat here, but somebody's got to come up and make more shots outside of Quinn Slazinski and Jesse Edwards. But again, it's the depth. It's the lack of having a backup center, not having a cook out there really hurts this team, because Jesse Edwards, he picks up his fourth foul around the halfway point of the second half, and then he's got to sit out a few minutes. That changes a little bit of your game plan there.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, though, Slazinski and Edwards were out when West Virginia made that run when they were down 10. So they actually started hitting shots there in the second half. And that's really what this team is. You got to have better guard play on both ends of the floor. The ball stops too much dribbling. And it's really, you're asking these guys to do things that they can't really do. And It is kind of unfair to them, but they're finding ways to score. It looks ugly at times, but the story of the game is you just need some fresh legs. You grab that rebound there at the end, and you don't get that questionable foul call driving down the lane there. So you get that one board, and you're probably going into overtime, and that's more than likely the killer for West Virginia anyway, because they didn't have any legs. So the way UVA shot, I think we kind of talked about it the other day. You're hoping that Virginia didn't shoot very well. Both teams shot better the second half, but West Virginia was right there. I think, I don't know if Virginia is a top 25 team at the moment. They will be as the season goes along. Eiler said after the game, they're not doing moral victories, but I think for West Virginia fans, you got to take what you can get at this point. You just hung in there with, I know they lost to Wisconsin. Wisconsin's a good basketball program. But you took a Tony Bennett team down to the wire. I think me and you both didn't really have this game close because UVA defense is so good. Yeah, it's slow pace of play, but you have to work so hard offensively, it's going to wear you out. And that's kind of what happened. But give credit to West Virginia that for whatever reason, they're finding energy later in the game today. Maybe it was because there was a lack of transition on both sides of the floor. Both teams weren't really running. So maybe that did help a little. But kind of see what they do moving forward. You'd like to see some better offense, some of those dead periods, to start the game. I think they didn't get their first bucket until after the first media timeout, so need a little bit better start. Not surprised with that Virginia defense, but you want to see more fluidity within the offense.
Maybe we could just carve out a new column for moral victories, right? So technically West Virginia, let's see, they're 2-1. If that's what we want to call it, because I mean,
no.
I'm going with it.
Absolutely not.
I mean, it's going to be that way for much of the season. And again, even when Kirk Kriisa comes back, it'll
help the offense. They'll be able to score a lot more,
right?
Because Kobe, he's doing, he had 5 turnovers today. He's done well at times, but he's not a point guard. Seth Wilson can't get around the edge. That's something that you got to get around the top of the defense to make them crash in and get away from Jesse. And they've done it at times. They did it against SMU. That's what provided a lot of those alley-oops and looks for him. And it can be done, but a team like Virginia, that's where you got to have better guard play. They just could not get down the lane create opportunities for other guys, and they spend most of the time shooting over the defense, and that's not no college team is going to find success just continuously shooting over the defense. So, game like this, Kerr would have been a huge addition for the offense.
Yeah, I mean, you probably would have cut those turnovers. I don't know about maybe in half, but
You're
pretty close.
probably looking at five, 4 or 5 turnovers off the mark. Now he's going to commit turnovers, and it's kind of the butterfly effect, right? He's on the floor, so other guys wouldn't maybe turn it over. You don't really know, but it's definitely going to give you better looks on the offensive end. You may have the same turnovers, but you're going to get better shots off, and in turn probably get more points.
Well, speaking of Kerr, I mean, does what you see or did what you see tonight maybe change your mind about how this team can survive without him throughout his suspension?
Uh, you know, I know Pitt's doing okay. Really just don't know enough yet. Um, a team like Monmouth again, I'm not sure. That's probably a sneaky good team. One of those teams that's just going to play above their weight class at times. So just don't really know. To me, it's just up in the air because yeah, they can get up for a game like this, but use that same energy? Is it Bellarmine Sunday?
Yep.
Can they use that same energy for 40 minutes? Well, they need to use that same energy. What happens if Bellarmine goes up 10? Is that defeating to this team? So there's so much mental aspect to this. They just dropped 2 against 2 teams that they would have liked to beat. It would have been a great resume builder. It wasn't really realistic, I think, to go and thinking they were going to win those 2 games. But you don't know where the mentality of this team yet. They look mentally tough so far. They've come out and played hard both games. I mean, that was a tough ass the other day, and they came out and played hard today and almost beat Virginia. So get a little bit of time off. Should get a little well rested, enjoy some Thanksgiving, and kind of see what happens. I mean, to me, it's night in, night out. Let's just see what happens. As of now, I would say yes, but we just don't know where this team is going to be come Sunday.
Yep. Last thing for me is I think a lot of the turnovers, at least from what I saw tonight, it looks like they're just dribbling the ball into trouble a lot of times. And whether that's getting it too close to the baseline or they're dribbling into the corner, dribbling into double teams, just they're not spacing well. And I feel like they're trying to force some things. Do you feel like that's I mean, do you feel like I'm right on that? Or where do you think some of these turnovers are popping up?
Yeah, and that's really where a point guard comes in play. Good point guard won't allow that to happen. So they get themselves in trouble. They're not recognizing the double team as it's coming. Once you recognize when it's there, a lot of times it's too late.
Yeah.
And that's generally just what's happening. And
Late decisions is where really what
they're
it is.
they're seeing it more and more. So they'll work on it. They'll have time to work on it. Obviously, after Thanksgiving, heading into Bellarmine, and they'll start to recognize it. They'll watch film. Slazinski and Edwards are veterans. Obviously, that's something that they'll pick up on. And we talked about it with SMU the other night. They crash 4 every time Edwards touched the ball. He just got to have that quick.
Yeah.
When he sees that, UVA didn't have to do that. They matched up with him one on one, kind of slowed him down a little bit in the second half. Some of that may have been with foul trouble, but you just got to recognize it and just get the ball out quick. I think their biggest issue there is when this one side gets overloaded, they don't know how to find the open guy when they swing it back out. Sometimes they pass it right back into the teeth of the defense, which I don't know where they're learning that, where they're getting that one from. But when you get it to the other side and you have that one-on-one and the guy's running at you, you should be able to put the ball on the floor and go. At that point, you're probably going to at least draw a foul in that situation. So some of it is just inexperience, and JoJo could probably benefit from a lot of those plays. But he hasn't quite learned that hey, maybe just a couple of dribbles in a jumper will do it, other than just trying to take it all the way to the hole and trying to dunk it. Just hit the jumper.
I fibbed. I got one more for us. So it's a similar question to the one with surviving without Kerr, but it almost feels like it's damage control season, right? Because you can't lose to a Bellarmine, you can't lose to who they got coming up, Toledo at some point. Like you've got to be able to beat those teams that you're supposed to beat because if I mean it's an outside shot, like an absolutely long shot for this team, we think, to get to the NCAA tournament. But to keep their hopes alive, I mean, they've got to get to Big 12 conference play with, at least a winning record because maybe even 2 or 3 games over 500. Because if not, I mean, you're talking about a brutal Big 12 schedule that could see you only win 2 or 3 games.
Yeah, I mean, you got to win the ones that you're expected to at this point. Mention Pitt, and you bring up St. John's. Um, those are two games that you're looking at like, okay, you're going to have to probably play your best ball that we've seen so far.
Ohio
And
State.
and they made a big jump coming into this tournament. So I don't know if they've peaked, but yeah, you've got to win what you can at this point. I think we've already said it, but you really want to win the Pitt game, keep those bragging rights going. But I think right now you just take it a game at a time and work on what you can and do the best you can to get your guards into better situations.
So West Virginia will take on Bellarmine on Sunday at 5 o'clock. That one will stream on ESPN Plus. We'll have the post-game show here for you. Chris will be live at the Coliseum. We'll also have the post-game show for the West Virginia football game against Baylor on Saturday night, which kicks off at 7 o'clock on FS1. So plenty more coverage for you guys to get to throughout this Thanksgiving weekend. We've got a ton of shows, a ton of articles up on the site. So make sure you're following us on Twitter or X. I don't think I'm ever going to get that down. I think I'm going to say Twitter for
It's only been like a year and a half or something. So
I know. So, but follow us on whatever that app that Elon Musk owns at Mountaineers Now, and you can subscribe to our channel on YouTube at Mountaineers Now as well. So, for Christopher Hall, I'm Schuyler Callihan. You've been watching the Mountaineers Now postgame show presented by Country Roads Air Duct Cleaning. Take me home to comfort. We'll see you guys here in a couple of days.